Hello. So, apologize, I'm down in my dungeon, I guess. My very unsophisticated man cave. I'm in the basement. Um, so, I'm in this video, I'll have some audio files that are going to follow up towards the end, and I will have text displaying what each audio file recording is of, and then you can listen to them and decide. I recorded the 817ND directly into the computer and recorded the audio. And that's what I'm going to be playing for you. In a couple of the samples, I've been playing with preamp off, the IPO, the preamp off, the preamp on, the attenuation off, the attenuation on. As you watch this, you're going to find that the preamp in itself is not a bad, evil thing. The attenuation doesn't necessarily matter either. What gets you is the auto gain. When the preamp is on and the attenuation is off, in other words, when IPO is off and attenuation is off, the automatic gain control will kick in more often. And when the automatic gain control kicks in, it turns up the gain for the quieter things. And then if somebody starts talking, it turns it down. And then it slowly comes back on. You're going to see that. Incidentally, you're also going to see that if you turn the auto gain control off, I can listen to a signal with the attenuation on and the IPO on for preamp off. Set the gain to a volume that I can hear. Then I can turn off the preamp and adjust the gain so the volume is the same, so it's comfortable on how I would listen to it. And then I can turn the attenuation off and adjust it again. So basically now it's all the same. And when you take that wave file of each single one of them and you make sure that the noise floor is exactly the same volume in the wave file, not processing it any other than making sure that it's literally the same volume, you're going to find they all sound exactly the same. I've got this recording was of a contest and one guy just talking, and another recording was a guy just talking, and then just different scenarios, all on 40 meters, a tremendous amount of noise.
So as I was mentioning, here I have the wave files of the different settings recorded, and I've already set the volume, and that's the only adjustment I've made to these clips is I've made the volume for the transition from one clip to the next sound the same, so that you're not getting this perceived noise reduction that's just a false perception based on the fact that it's just quieter if you reduce the volume. With that being said, this whole clip here is with automatic gain on. The first section here is with the preamp off, or IPO is on, and attenuation is on. So this is what everybody keeps saying is if you want to help control your noise, be able to hear things a little better, to set those settings on. And I'm finding that really doesn't have an impact. You think it sounds better just because your radio goes down in volume, but you're really not reducing or changing the signal to noise ratio. If you look at this, here's the noise floor, and this is the loudest signal that came in when I peaked it here. As we go over here, what you're noticing is somebody's talking really loud here. The gain was already set down, so as soon as he stops talking, you see this drop in volume. And so what would happen is if somebody was talking in the real quiet part here, you wouldn't be able to hear them. And then he starts talking again. The difference that you're seeing really is, you'll notice in a bigger gap here, he stops talking. The volume drops really low because it had already been reduced in the first place because he was so loud. The automatic gain had already reduced the volume quite a bit to compensate for his signal. Then it slowly starts to rise, and then he starts talking again, and then it slowly starts to rise. Now over here, you just got, in general, people just talking quietly. And so it seems like you think your dynamic range is going away here. It really isn't. It's just turning it up. All this is just turned up. You'll see on another clip as we get further in that you can actually compare the two samples of a guy that looks like in this this area, he sounds exactly like he does, or the IPO is on and attenuation is on. He sounds exactly the same. So when we start this, let's go ahead and let this play through, and you're going to see as you go through here, you're going to see this display what the settings are. So.
Pier 59 in Notre Dame, Indiana. W4SIG mobile. Roger, you're 5555, Crittenden, Arkansas.
Now I'm going to pause this right here. I don't know if you've noticed this, and I'm going to show you another example as we go further. Actually having the attenuation on lowered the volume so much that when I was recording the signal into the computer, you could actually pick up the line noise. If you go back and listen to this, you may have to turn your headphones up. The line noise that was being recorded between the radio and the computer, you can actually hear. Now, listen to this. However, as you'll notice as we go through here, other than that, this sounds exactly the same until the automatic gain starts kicking in. You'll notice some fluctuations.
November 4, Japan Radio. USL 55, you're also 55, Jackson County, Alabama. 55 and Jackson, Alabama. Okay, for the net we have K0FGs in Hickory, Missouri. Anyone I can hear need a relay? Anyone I can hear need a relay for Hickory, Missouri. K0FG's there. Did anyone hear anyone call that I don't? Okay.
So if somebody was talking right here, it would have been a perception as if it was lost due to the effect of the attenuation being off. But that's really not the case. What's happened is this guy was talking so loud that it did reduce the volume, but it also reduced the volume of this, which you can obviously see there is audio that can be picked up. You can see it gaining as it goes here. So if somebody was talking right there, you'd perceive him as being harder to hear, and you might initially think it was because the attenuation was turned off. So now you're going to see the same thing happen here, but let's go ahead and let it play through. This is now with the IPO turned off, so the preamp would be on.
Okay, Fred, thanks for putting that out for us, and we'll catch you the next time. For the net, that was K0FG. He was in Hickory, Missouri, and I think that's it for him today. N0KV, you still there? N0KV, are you on board? Roger. Did you want to see if Bob's ready to go? NAKIE, N0KV. NAKIE, N0KV. He said a couple more minutes.
Now, you heard right there during that part, you might think that towards the end there, the guy was getting lost in the noise. It was really quiet. I will show you later on that that's actually not the case. It was turned up, but he didn't get lost any more than if you had everything turned off. it might be perceived as if he has, but when you really look at it this way, you'll find out it had no impact. So I'm going to go now to the next clip, and what we're looking at here is same scenario. In this particular clip, I've got 4 samples. All these were with automatic gain turned off. And you are going to find with automatic gain turned off, other than the fact that you will be able to hear the line noise between the radio and the computer that was recording this, when IPO and attenuation is turned on, you're going that, which means additional noise technically, but probably only in the recording. But my point is, other than that, you're going to find that I set this basically around the middle, the 12 o'clock position for the gain control, and then I just recorded. And I turned on the different settings, and then I came and put them here, and I just set them so that the noise floor was the same across the board. That's all I did, was adjust the volume. And you're going to see that what was really heard all sounds exactly the same.
Whiskey X-ray 4, India Delta. Whiskey Alpha Echo, Oscar Juliet. Whiskey X-ray 4, India Delta. Oscar Golf India. Thank you much. 20 over up here in Licking County, Ohio, just east of Columbus. Sound good. First name is Craig, Golf Romeo Echo Golf. Thank you much. Have fun. November 1, Japan. November 1, Japan, Charlie Whiskey. The other November 1, is it November 1 station? November 1, Japan, Charlie Whiskey. November 1, Charlie. Roger, Roger, Kevin, you're 5959 Massachusetts. Name is Jim, Julie Indian Lake, Roger. Roger that, Jim, we got on board from Massachusetts. My report. You're passing between a 6 and a 7, I'll take. I'll take the 7. Very good, Kevin. Have fun. Thank you for doing it. Roger, Roger. Have a good night. 7-3. Kilo 6, Kilo 4, Papa.
Kilo 1, Delta Delta November.
Whiskey Alpha Echo, Oscar Juliet. Whiskey 3, Golf Whiskey Uniform, GWU in New Mexico. You're 5-9, over. I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico, southern New Mexico, about, you're 5-9 here, over. Roger that. I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico. You're 5-9. The handle is Rick. Romeo India Charlie Kilo. Over. Roger, Roger. Well, I used to live in Alamogordo. Oh, that's only about 40 miles away. Over. Yes, yes. I remember very fondly. Wonderful. We visit all the time up there. Over. Thank you very much for the contact. I appreciate it, and I've been trying to work all the stations during this convoy on the air again. Thanks very much for being there, over. Fine business. What is my report, over? What is my signal report, over? I just see I set you at a 5 and 7. Thank you very much for the 5 to 5-7. You're 5.
So as you can see, once you set the audio clips all to the same volume level, It didn't matter whether attenuation was on or off, if the IPO off or on. It had no impact. It all really sounded the same. So now we're going to go into basically the same exact idea as before. You are going to see these peaks because the automatic gain is on these. So what happens is somebody's loud, so it drops down. It's loud, so it drops down. It's loud, so it drops down, etc. Again, I set the knob roughly around the 12 o'clock position for the gain control, and then the automatic gain kicked in as necessary. What you're actually going to see here, though, is, as I explained before, is because somebody was loud, when they stop talking, the volume is actually much lower. The gain is much lower because it compensated for that loud signal. What you might want to do is actually focus on just turning off your automatic gain to give you more precise control. Don't worry about the other two settings. If they work where you have it, you don't have to keep switching back and forth. As you see me do in other videos, I'm finding that's not necessary. So as you go through here, we've got the preamp on in this last section and the attenuation off. So in other words, IPO is off, attenuation is off. And you'll notice this was also a lot quieter part, so it brought everybody up in volume. Over here, everything was back off. The preamp was off, so IPO is on, attenuation is on. This is like the recommended people said if you want to deal with noise. And I'm going to jump from the guy here when we get to that point. I'm going to compare here with everything on, with Autogain on, everything, to a section over here where the same guy is talking with everything off, or you know what I mean, with everything the opposite, with the attenuation on, the IPO on, and still using Autogain. He sounds exactly the same. Again, turning Autogain off will give you a little bit more control because it'll be doing that knob for you as opposed to you having to do it manually. But adjusting the IPO and the attenuation on and off at this point is only necessary if you literally got signal that's coming in that's so hot that you need to do those adjustments. Potentially, you're not going to gain otherwise. So let's go ahead and listen to this clip now, and we'll review.
Whiskey Alpha 8 Echo Oscar Juliet. Whiskey Alpha 8 Echo Oscar Juliet.
Kilo 1 Delta Delta November.
Yeah, Whiskey Alpha 8 Echo Oscar Juliet, over. Yeah, it's a Roger, Roger. Whiskey Alpha 8 Echo Oscar Juliet, you're 5-9 in Ohio, over. This is Denny, Delta Echo November, November Yankee, over. Yes, Roger, Roger, Denny. Yeah, Roger, Kevin. Thank you very much for the contact. What's my report, please? Roger, Roger. Thank you. It's 7-3. Have a good night.
Whiskey X-ray 4, India Echo.
Kilo 1 Delta Delta.
Now, I just want to clarify, it appears that there is more noise in this section, but the people talking in this section are just quieter. But you'll see as we go further, I'll show how that really this still just proves the fact of messing with the IPO and the attenuation, at least on the 817 really doesn't have a true impact. What I'm going to show you real quick, and then I have a better example over here too, so I don't want to spend much time on it, but listen to this guy talking and notice the settings. The IPO is on, the attenuation is on, and the settings over here is in this section here, the IPO is off and the attenuation is off. I'm going to go to this guy right here that was talking, and then I'm going to skip back over and play him here, and they sound the same.
I'm very happy with it. I've had it for about 5 years now, and one minor glitch about 6 months into it, but...
Okay, on this last section, what I've done now is initially set the gain where it just opened the gate, where I could literally just hear the guy. You couldn't set it any lower than this setting. I also turned the attenuation on and the IPO on, so this was literally the lowest input. I had this reduced as low as you could get it. And then all I did was, from that setting, just turned off the IPO and turned off the attenuation. And I just switched back and forth between the two. And then in the next section, I took the exact same clip and right to where I had the attenuation on and the IPO on, and it's real quiet. In other words, this section right here, I just selected the entire track. After putting the clip marks, right-clicked, Autogain, and I said normalize all peaks to 0 dB. That's what I did. So all peaks are normalized to 0 dB, and that's it. And when you listen to this, you're going to actually find, when you first listen to this, you're going to think, oh, well, yeah, it does sound like there's less noise when it's quieter. But it's really not. It's just quieter. That's all it is. In fact, you're going to find that if you turn your speakers up so that you can hear it, you're going to find in the areas when I actually had to crank them back up in volume to be the same volume as everything else, you are going to hear more noise. The noise that was actually between, as I mentioned before, between the radio and the computer, wherever that was coming from, you're actually going to be able to hear that. So in reality, all you did was lower the volume level, and you created potentially more noise. So let's go ahead and listen to this.
He was out over in Lake Orion today, sitting on his back deck. It's beautiful and sunny here, and peaceful.
And I think you heard that. The two clicks you hear, you may not hear it in this section because how I clipped it and adjusted the volume, but you'll hear the two clicks, and that's the two clicks of me turning the IPO on and the attenuation on. And then two clicks of when I turn the IPO off and the attenuation off to bring the volume back up. So you'll hear those 2 clicks as it transitions, but I'll start it again.
Over in Lake Orion today, sitting on his back deck. It's beautiful and sunny here. And faithful dog Finnegan is here. And he's enjoying laying in the sun.
And in your mind, you're probably thinking, yeah, it actually sounds like there's less noise and I can hear him better.
Enjoying the net today, and we were at breakfast with a bunch of GM guys this morning from the repeater side of the club. And they were all excited about a new Yaesu repeater that's here now, but going to be installed probably week after next weekend around here. Anyway, we got that Hamcom at the Michigan International Speedway. So those of you guys that are just down across the border in Indiana, maybe Phil and Jack City and some of those other guys that often check in, come on up to the Hamcom at the Michigan International Speedway. So it's going to be a great event. I'll be here, George. KB9 Victor Fox, this is Whiskey 1, Bravo India Charlie. Back to you.
But in reality, you'll find that when I bring those quiet spots back up in volume, there's actually more noise.
He was out over in Lake Orion today, sitting on his back deck. It's beautiful and faithful dog Finnegan is here. And he's enjoying laying in the sun like Grandpa's enjoying sitting out here in the sun. So we're just today, and we were at breakfast with a bunch of GM guys this morning from the repeater side of the club. And the Yaesu repeater that's here now, but going to be installed probably week after next around here. Anyway, we got that Hamcom at the Michigan International Speedway. So those of you guys that are just down the border in Indiana, maybe Phil and Jack City and some of those other guys that often check in, come on up to the Hamcom at the Michigan International Speedway. So it's going to be a great. I'll be here, George. KB9 Victor Fox. This is Whiskey 1, Bravo India Charlie. Back to you.
So again, this was taken using an inverted V at 40 meters, half-wave dipole inverted V. And as you can see, it really appears that the saying that if you turn on your IPO and you turn on attenuation, it's going to make it easier to hear those signals down in the noise, appears to be a myth. From everything I see here, what has the biggest impact is the Autogain. And again, as you saw when I compared it over to this section over here, even with Autogain, switching between with everything on and with everything off, the guy sounded exactly the same. So unless you literally have an antenna that's got such a strong signal coming in from it that you have to turn the IPO on or turn the attenuation on, that's not necessarily going to help you hear anything any better. I do not see obsessing about the IPO setting and the attenuation setting as being much of a benefit. If you want to have more control, just turn the automatic gain off on those times where you feel that things are a little rough for you to hear. That's going to benefit you more than any of those other things.